All right, this morning I get to introduce our speaker, Jim Galloway. He's been a writer and editor with Atlanta Journal-Constitution for 32 years. In 1976, while Jimmy Carter accepted the Democratic nomination for the President of the United States on TV, it was young Mr. Galloway's weighty task to blindly call Georgia residents to see how many were watching the John Wayne movie, Schedule Opposite. It turned out there were quite a few. His responsibility have increased since then somewhat to include mayors, governors, and occasional heads of state. But the meanest, nastiest, most low-down campaign he's ever seen, and it remains to this day, is the race for the presidency of the Southern Baptist Convention. So I'll give you Mr. Galloway.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. This is the shortest commute I've had this year. I'm 11 minutes that way, over in West Cobb. So this was no burden. But I was checking, and I think this is the first time that anyone has paid more than $2.50 to hear what I've had to say. So I'll try to be worthy of it. I'm not going to speak long because I'd rather answer your questions and hear what you really want to know more than wax on here. I'm primarily here to give you an update on the 2012 Republican presidential primary. And we can talk, if you like, about what's going on in the state capitol. But I think you're going to be telling me more than I'm going to be telling you about that. I've only been there for maybe 2 or 3 days this last month. I was complaining to my wife last night that I'm on 48-hour leave right now to file expenses and to wash my underwear. And then tomorrow it's back to Columbia. But I opened this beautiful DeWalt wood planer for Christmas, and I have yet to plug it in. I just haven't had. I haven't had any respite here. But now, as for this presidential race, which is changing as fast as Superman in a phone booth, for those of you who remember what phone booths were, I woke up this morning thinking Mitt Romney had won the Iowa caucus. I was there. I heard them say that he had won it by 8 votes. They were wrong. Today, Rick Santorum is the winner by 34 votes, possibly. They lost 8 boxes. Seriously, they lost 8 boxes. So they're not calling it. They're not calling a winner in there. They don't know who won. Think about this. Think about this if you're Iowa and your advertising and part of your industry is based on the fact that you're a first-in-the-nation presidential site. It's not going to look good. And if you're Republican and you know how hard Republicans have pushed voter security over these last few years, doesn't look good. Doesn't look good. Okay. My first thought when I woke up to that, listening to Bortz, my first thought was, when did the Talmadges move to Des Moines? Okay. Now, I also woke up this morning and thought we had 5 Republican candidates. Because I was there in Myrtle Beach when John Huntsman pulled out, bringing it for us from 6 to 5. Well, now we're down to 4. Rick Perry is bowed out within the last hour and endorsed Newt Gingrich. And that's shaken things up. It's not really, he was running behind Stephen Colbert in the polls. Truly. And he was running 3rd in Texas. Again, seriously, this is fact. So it's not really that much of a surprise. I woke up today thinking Herman Cain had left the race. But of course, you know, Stephen Colbert has hijacked Herman Cain's name in South Carolina. He can't get on the ballot. Colbert can't get on the ballot. There's no write-ins. So he's hijacked Herman Cain's his name, and he's sending out, he's running ads saying, if you want Colbert, vote for Herman Cain. So Herman Cain's back in the race. And as I was driving over here, I was talking with my boss. Apparently, Herman is playing along with this. He and Colbert have a press conference scheduled for tomorrow at 1 o'clock, I think, in Charleston. So he's playing. I mean, you know, this is a bizarre. I've never seen a race like this. This is completely bizarre. Now, I also woke up this morning thinking that Newt Gingrich's two ex-wives had kept their mouths shut. And I was off by 50%. We've got just before I walked over here, ABC News had a sit down with her and is kind of leaking that out. It's going to be broadcast late tonight after the CNN debate, but they're pushing out enough of it so maybe they can get it talked about during the debate. And Newt, of course, is ticked off, and you can't blame him. And I got to say, it's not something that we would have done. Simply, it used to be that you had kind of a 48-hour zone. You know, when a race came, when you got close to a race, 2 days before a race is generally when we put a halt to the hot stuff. You know, no big revelations. But you know, it's a different day and time. So we have that to play with tonight. Now, all of the above, excluding Marianne, I'm not sure how much Marianne will matter, because she's always been out there. Everybody knew it happened. Everybody knew he was hanging around Callista at the same time. And I mean, there's not a new fact out there. The one thing that Marianne has said was that Newt asked her for an open marriage. Now, I've already run across one fellow here who thinks that might be a good idea and get the male vote for it. I won't single him out, because he'll get told on. But all of the above, all of this stuff, means that we have a very, very tight race developing in South Carolina between Mitt Romney and the two non-Romneys. But it's pretty clear that it's turning into a Romney-Gingrich race. But the real fight is between those who believe that you need a conservative with softer edges who will make a better appeal to independents come November, or a conservative with very sharp, clear edges, high contrast conservative, if you will, to really spell out the differences in the electorate. And we can get into the details later on about whether that's good strategy or bad strategy. I think it's all going to depend on the economy. Now, Sarah Palin says that if she lived in South Carolina, she would vote for Newt Gingrich, and that will probably help him. Jimmy Carter on CNN last night said that Gingrich is using the subtle code words of racism when he talks about a food stamp president and the need to teach poor people how to work. That is also likely to help Gingrich.
Thank you,
Jimmy Carter criticizing you does not hurt you in a Republican primary. Now, those words may come back and haunt Gingrich if he's in the general election, but it doesn't hurt you in a Republican primary. 4 polls in the last 24 hours. I try never to put my faith in a single poll, but you've got 4 polls in the last 24 hours, and all show the race tightening. 3 of those polls show Romney with a shrinking, but it was kind of substantial lead. And you wonder how when we say a candidate is surging, how we measure that. Well, what these pollsters do, these 3 of these polls. The 4th is a Matt Towery poll, and I'll get to that. But the 3 of the polls are multi-night polls. You know, they're phone conversations with voters, and they go over 3 or 4 days. And those 3 polls straddled that Monday debate. And I don't know how many of you saw it. I mean, that was probably the best debate of the season. It was an incredible day. Lots of sharp contrast between all the candidates. Good dialogue. Newt did well. He did very well. And in these surveys, you know, the Romney support is strong in front of that on the far side of the debate. On the near side of the debate, Gingrich jumps up. That's how we measure the surge. The fourth poll is an Insider Advantage poll. That's an outfit here. Some of you may know Matt Towery, but he did it for the Augusta Chronicle. He did it on Wednesday night, so it's all post-debate, and he's got Gingrich with a 1-point lead, essentially a statistical tie. Between here and Saturday, we've got two hurdles here. We've got that debate tonight. I think it's 8 o'clock on CNN. WSB's radio is going to carry it live if you're in your car. And we've got the ABC Marianne Gingrich interview. So, I mean, we've still got a lot of volatility here. I mean, this is just amazing if you're a junkie. I can't say anything bad about it. Tonight, you're likely to see Romney focus on Gingrich as his nearest competitor, and he'll probably speak well of Santorum. He's certainly going to dwell on Newt Gingrich's reputation as a fellow who lacks great management skills. Both he and Santorum won't be very shy about pointing to their long marriages. You know that. I mean, Gingrich is likely to press Romney on the tax issue. I think that the tax issue that's developed in those last couple days is kind of interesting. He's playing it just right. He's not saying Romney is cheating on his taxes. What he's trying to do is he's trying to stop the stampede so that conservatives can coalesce around a single candidate, which he hopes will be him. And his argument is, we need to see your taxes, Mitt, because we don't want any surprises come April or May when it's too late. And it seems to me that just from a Republican point of view, that's just the right tack to take. That you don't want to. It will have the additional effect of comparing his 15% tax returns with your or mine 27% tax return or whatever. It'll have that effect, but he doesn't need to say that. So I kind of admire the way that he's bringing that out. Romney also kind of stumbled. You know, he is a likable candidate. I mean, I will say that. If you're going to unsaddle Barack Obama, you have to remember that although his numbers are low, all the polling nationwide, I mean, not here in Georgia so much, but nationwide, people like the guy. He is as a person, they have warm thoughts to him about him. Now, Romney is also likable. A little bit. I mean, he has a problem connecting. Newt is that more polarizing figure, and that's the choice that everybody's going to have to make on the Republican side between here and now. How you go about that. So I think what we've got here, it really doesn't, to me, it doesn't matter what happens on Saturday. Whether Gingrich actually wins or Romney wins. If right now the polls show Romney is not going to clear past that 40% mark, and that's going to mean some things to people. That means a clear, 65%, 2/3 of the vote aren't going to be with him. If Gingrich even comes close, this race continues. And if it continues into Florida, then after Florida, you've got 7 states, and then it goes into Georgia. It means we're going to get a presidential race. I mean, that's pretty much already happened now. I mean, just these last 72 hours means that Georgia is going to have a presidential race for a couple reasons. This is on March 6th, Super Tuesday. Okay? While we were all kind of unplugged during Christmas, a couple things happened. Texas went and quietly, it was scheduled to vote for, on Super Tuesday, as 155 delegates. Texas went, and because it's got some redistricting problems in court, it moved its primary to April 3rd. Okay, so there's that. Then Virginia went and restricted its ballot to just Romney and Ron Paul. And it doesn't have, Virginia doesn't have as many ballots as Georgia, but as Georgia, but it's because it's so close to D.C. You know, that all the media attention would go there because it's cheap. You know, all these news organizations could just kind of, you could drive south and not have to pay anything for it. So that means we're going to be the big dog on March 6th. 76 delegates. Romney's got good organization here. You have many, not all, but many Georgia evangelicals lining up behind Rick Santorum. Tim Eccles, who is the chairman of the Public Service Commission, is out in South Carolina campaigning for him right now. And of course, Gingrich has the governor. And right now, you know, I don't know if you remember when Gingrich's campaign collapsed last June. One of the first people to bail on him was Sonny Perdue. But Deal said, no, I'm going to stick with my guy. And that decision's kind of paying off right now. So that's what I got to say. But let's start with questions here. What do you want to talk about? We can talk about Mormonism. We can talk about.
What kind of talk about that?
Yes, sir.
All the commercials that we're seeing now, these people talking about how their lives have been changed radically, and then at the end, oh, and I'm a Mormon. Now, is that from the campaign side?
No. That's from the Mormon Church. That's for.
So they're doing that to push Romney.
Well, I'd hate. I've got to say that the timing is a little bit more than coincidental.
You think?
I think they. But I think they're looking at it more from a marketing point of view. They know that I mean, up until Monday, they had 2 candidates who were Mormon in the presidential race. So they know it was on everybody's mind. So why not take advantage of that? I think it was less of a matter of pushing a candidate than of taking advantage of the conversation. You know, I was talking to Ralph Reed on Sunday, and he was pointing out, one of his points has been that in Iowa, and it'll be a bigger number in South Carolina, Iowans voted, 61% of all the Iowans who voted that Tuesday voted either for a Mormon or a Catholic. Gingrich is a Catholic now, so is Santorum. And you don't, unless you know the history of religion in the United States, you just don't, I mean, you can't grasp how new that is, and how new and actually kind of great it is in one way. Because you could not, in the South, you could not get elected unless you were Baptist, Methodist, or Methodist, preferably Baptist. I mean, Church of God, forget about it. No, they wouldn't have you. I mean, we had an establishment religion. Yes, sir.
With the surge, does Gingrich come closer to Romney in fundraising the organization, or is he still?
He's still behind in both. Gingrich is notoriously disorganized. I mean, it just comes with the guy, and you don't expect anything else. I mean, he lucked into that money from I can't call his name right now, but a Las Vegas casino guy who slipped him. Who slipped him $5 million. Now, the one thing that surprised me in South Carolina is that fact hasn't come out. That Gingrich that nobody's really nailed him on the fact that his campaign is being driven by gambling money. It could still come out. It could still come out, but so far, you know, it's only helped him. Yes, sir.
Yeah, an interesting comment about that. I think that's the only non-union casino and hotel on the Strip.
Is it?
Yeah. The Venetian, was the Venetian on
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly right. So I thought that was kind of interesting. The question I have, you mentioned earlier that the contest is really coming down to a choice for Republicans between a sharp-edged conservative as opposed to a more moderate or more conservative that can kind of appeal to the top two issues right now, obviously, for most Americans are jobs and the economy.
Right.
And perhaps that doesn't factor in as much before the primary as opposed to the general. But do you see the focus, do you see it as a choice between those two? You've got two conservatives, sharp and moderate, or between their records on jobs and the economy, not only as governor and House Speaker, but
well, I do think Mitt Romney would have an advantage if that's the issue. And if the economy, to me, it's a matter of what will the economy look like in that third quarter? If it starts to improve, it's not. I mean, we're not going to see the unemployment rate suddenly jump down to where it once was. But if it gets below 8, then Republicans might start to worry a little bit. And then I'm thinking maybe that sharp contrast would do you better. If it stays high, and there's an obvious bone to pick with Obama on the economy, then I think Mitt Romney might have a little better shot at it. But that's more of a guess than anything else. I'm not Karl Rove. I wouldn't be working here. I'd have a better house too. Yeah.
Presuming Newt Gingrich were to take the nominee and go on to face Barack Obama, do you think there's even a chance that the debates that he's positioned, Abraham Lincoln-style debates, where he does 5 or 8, is that even possible?
No. I think right now, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I think 3 debates are scheduled. There's a presidential debate commission, and I think Obama would prefer to stick that. But that means Newt gets to batter him on that issue. I mean, that's fairly typical electoral dynamics. I mean, if you're the guy who's not the incumbent, you're trying to get the incumbent on the stage as much as possible to show. I got to say, I sat through a Newt Gingrich Herman Cain allegedly Lincoln-Douglas debate, and there wasn't a whole lot to it. There was there was a lot of love there, too much love there. Everybody was far too comfortable. They were in armchairs sitting around a table, and it was all yes, what you said. If you indeed had a true Lincoln-Douglas debate where you had set speeches, one following another, that might work. But so far, Newt's conception of the Lincoln-Douglas debate doesn't match up with what happened in 1858. Yes, sir.
I know it's early, but potential running mates for Romney or Gingrich to offset some of President Obama's strengths.
I would think that Romney, both men. Well, Gingrich. I think Gingrich has a little bit firmer grasp of foreign policy. At least he can talk good foreign policy. I think generally you've seen less less attention paid to regionalism. I mean, when Kennedy picked Lyndon Johnson, it was in order to get Texas. But you don't see that much right now. And the most common balancing you see is a governor will pick a member of Congress in order to get to diversify that kind of experience and to get a little foreign policy heft. That's why Obama went with Joe Biden, because that's what kind of heft he got. That's what McCain tried to do. He had all the foreign policy heft he needed, but he went to Palin to strengthen his domestic side. So I mean, Newt has talked about Sarah Palin having a big place in his cabinet as energy, but I would guess, if I had to guess, I would say both of them are going to be courting Rubio in Florida very heavily. I mean, that guy's got youth. He's done some foreign policy stuff. He's got a good congressional heft already. I mean, he's only been, what, 2 years in there? And Florida's going to be important. And that's where I would look first.
Would Romney select Gingrich as the vice president?
No, I know. No, I don't think they bring enough. I don't think, number one, after Iowa, Newt is not friendly toward Romney. He was, you know, I mean, he was trying to be the love candidate in Iowa. It didn't work out. Romney just came in. Oh man, until you turned on your hotel room TV, you didn't understand what was going on in Iowa. It was just a wall of video, and half of it was aimed at Gingrich. But so there's no love lost between them. No, I don't think you'd see that. I know, you know, I mean, Democrats still, you know, dream about dumping Biden for Hillary, but that's not going to happen either.
Secretary of State, maybe?
For Gingrich, yeah. I would think something like that. Maybe he would be assigned with as Secretary of Education with the object of dismantling it. I mean, seriously. I mean, that would be something to think about it.
What about the New Jersey governor?
Oh, Chris Christie? Oh. I mean,
he ought to be.
That's who everybody. I mean, you had a couple of candidates who just everybody. You know, all your Republican establishment were just calling and saying, "You got to jump in. You got to jump in." And Mitch Daniels was one. Chris Christie was another. He'll be if Obama wins, he's the first name you're going to hear in 2016. John Huntsman is going to run again too. I'll put money on that. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question about the under 40 voter. I feel like the Republican Party again has overlooked or dismissed the under 40 Republican voter, or even in that age range, who is plugged into the internet for their information. I think that mistake was made 4 years ago. Of course, I'm involved in the internet and it's my source of information. Have they made that mistake again?
I think they're on their way to fixing it, and Ron Paul is the vehicle. I mean, Ron Paul did very well in Iowa. He did extraordinarily well in New Hampshire. He's probably headed for a third or fourth place finish on Saturday. But he, I mean, if you look at the demographics that he's pulling in those young people.
Yes.
Ron Paul is less a candidate than a cause. He's not going to be the presidential nominee. He is a cause, and I think he's because he attracts so many young people. I think he is the future of the Republican Party. I think you have to pay attention to his message on foreign policy, on less intrusion overseas, on less intrusion in your bedroom, in your personal life. I think those are, and ultimately, I think that you're going to see a confrontation with establishment, strong foreign policy conservatives on one side, with the evangelicals, and the Paulistas on another side. And you know, I think the Paul people, watch out for them.
It's difficult to spoon feed that demographic.
Right.
With the big four as far as CNN, that kind of thing. They're not getting spoon fed. They choose what to eat. It's
right. You just have to ride their wave.
Yeah.
Let me ask you another question. America's Select, you're familiar with that effort. It's the folks that are putting the ballot together for the internet.
Yes. Is that the Lisa Borders group?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just curious whether is that. I mean, you got to.
It hasn't worked so far. I mean, we tried that 4 years ago with Bloomberg and Nunn, Sam Nunn. You know, they were thinking of. You know, I went up.
So you don't see a third party.
No, I think the only one I keep my eye on is Donald Trump. You know, the guy's got enough hair and enough ego that he might try something, and that would and say if a Mitt Romney got the nomination, he might try that, and of course it would hurt Republicans. I mean,
I heard a lecture earlier this week from Strategic Vision organization, Paulding organization in Atlanta, and they mentioned the importance of Latino vote, the Hispanic vote, in 2012. What do you see the significance of that playing out and being just the sheer size of the demographic, as well as the fact that they tend to be small business owners, especially in states like Florida, and they're basically the point he was making is that they are definitely in play.
Extraordinarily so, and that will be one of the downsides of a Romney nomination, I think, because Romney has gone very hard on illegal immigration. I mean, he was against the DREAM Act, against any kind of concessions to people who are already here, and you know that Newt didn't. I think the Latino Republican coalition or club or whatever, the national group endorsed Newt a couple days ago. Because of that, and that's I mean Republicans need to worry about that with the language of illegal immigration, because it doesn't matter here in Georgia, and it won't for a good 5-10 years, but eventually it'll make a difference. Yes, sir.
On the local level, we think the chances are the T-SPLOS passing in July.
I'm one of those who think that it may have a better chance now that I think they've decided to leave it in July. I think with enough money that you can manipulate that vote a little bit harder. You can get it will be turned into a sales tax referendum, just like you've seen everywhere else. You know, low turnout, and they'll try to juice up that, they'll have the only TV going. I think it's going to be close. I don't think it's going to carry Cobb where I live, but they don't have to carry Cobb. They just have to come close in Cobb. And the same thing I think in Paulding. You know, I don't think they have to carry Paulding. I think they have to be significant in Paulding, and then just really run up the vote in Fulton and DeKalb counties. One thing that interesting in Fulton County, there's the North Fulton Chamber of Commerce has gotten a big program of voter registration, because it's if you live, something like 92% of the eligible voters in the city of Atlanta and South Fulton are registered voters, and in North Fulton that figure is only about 78%. No, 74%. It's even a little bit lower. And so they've got a big voter registration drive. It's a matter of mobility and people moving in and moving out, more so than anything else. So they've got a big registration push, and it's targeted, of course, at the T-SPLOS. But if you juice up North Fulton's voter registration by 14%, 15% like they intend to, well, that's going to play out in other races. Not just, it just won't matter in July. It'll matter in November. So you could see kind of a return of the Republican chairmanship in Fulton County. It's possible. It's possible. You haven't asked one.
Well, back to national politics.
Mm-hmm.
If Ron Paul's passed over for the Republican nomination, do you see him possibly sliding over to the third party for the Libertarian?
I really don't, because of Rand Paul, his son, the senator from Kentucky. It's not mine, is it? No, it's not my ringtone anymore. It was my ringtone. He can't. Rand Paul, I think, has some ambitions. I think he would like to make at least one run for president. Again, this speaks to the future of libertarianism within the Republican Party. But if Ron Paul makes that third party bid, then he really hurts his son's chances. So I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, and of course, the side effect that is going to cause the Republican Party too.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. Oh, his name would be Mud again. in the Republican Party, because he's made that run before.
Yeah, Georgia 14th. Any comments on who's running there?
Georgia 14th.
This is the Georgia 14th congressional district that will be elected in 2000.
I mean,
Tom Graves is the only person I've heard.
And it'll stay that way. When Bob Barr passed on it, third week of December, that was it. Okay. Jerry Sheeran had passed on it earlier. It is just so hard these days. Even, I mean, the 14th is going to be new to Graves. I mean, I think 50%, 47% new to him. But and this is a different territory for him. I mean, you can be a real hardcore Tea Partier up in North Georgia, but down here, people want a little help with navigating the federal government a little bit more, especially when it comes to things like transportation. So there are different electorates, but just the advantage of incumbency is just so great. I think he's in that job for as long as he wants it, but I don't think he's going to want it forever. I think he's got bigger ambition than that. Yes, sir.
Healthcare conversation's been a lot more muted lately. I guess the other topics have come up, and the primaries haven't brought that. Because I think most of the primary candidates agree. How big of a role do you see that conversation being in the general election? Because it's been pitched as it will be a huge role, and of course in 2008 it was a huge role. What do you see?
Well, I think you got Obama praying that Mitt Romney's the nominee for that very reason, because he's got. I mean, it's interesting. The race is kind of coming down to two guys who actually had big roles in the development of Obama's healthcare policy, because Newt had that first idea of mandated health care. You buy insurance, you're forced to buy insurance. I've been given my 5-minute warning, by the way. I mean, Newt in the 90s. I mean, mandatory health care insurance started out as a conservative idea. That it started there, and Newt was one of the first to say that you need to do that. You need to post a bond if you don't want to buy the insurance, but you can't have a free ride in the emergency room. And Romney picked that ball up, ran with it, put it in Massachusetts, and of course, the rest is history. Now you've got both of these guys, and that's that's Santorum's argument up in South Carolina, is that he won't have to apologize. He won't have to say, yeah, but, because he was always against it. I think Romney more so than Newt, because Newt can talk his way out of anything. But Romney more so than Newt is going to be damaged by that. Is going to be compromised, let's say, by that. Last two questions. You first, and then you.
What do you think the state houses across the country going, mostly Republican, will have an effect on the congressional race?
I'm sorry, I'm not.
The Republicans won a bunch of state houses this last time. Redistricting, which really has affected
absolutely
some other people. How do you think that's going to affect the congressional election in 2012?
Well, I mean, in the House, I don't think there's. I mean, in the House, I don't think it's going to affect it that much, because the House is still going to stay in Republican control. I can't fathom Democrats winning enough seats to take back the House at this point. I don't think they do either. And moreover, then I'm guessing. I think. Tell me, how many Senate seats are at risk? You've got a third of the Senate. How many? What's the division of Democrat and Republican?
More Republican.
I think it's a 2-to-1 margin. I think it's a 2-to-1 margin. Democrats have twice as many Senate seats as Republicans. So chances are you're going to have a Republican Senate come November too. I mean, regardless of what happens in the presidential, unless things really get screwy. And of course, that's good for us. I mean, you'll have. Chambliss will be chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, which will be really interesting. That'll be fun for me. I mean, that's nice.
Far cry from supermajority, though. You don't see.
No. You won't. And that's where repeal of the Obama's healthcare stuff, is going to run into problems, because I don't see a 60 seat majority. And very quickly,
Yes, sir. You had mentioned that Obama's praying that the nominee will be Mitt because of the health care issue. Does that mean that the conventional wisdom is wrong, that Mitt is the strongest candidate in a general election against Obama?
I don't want to say that. That's not my place to say. I think it's very clear that they would prefer him as I mean, just given the advertising. Now, whether that makes him the weakest Republican, I'm not prepared to say that. I think he's very strong organizationally. He's got lots of money behind him, and I think he's got a demeanor that would help him against Obama. So no, I think he would make it a close race. I'm not going to stand here and say, oh, Newt's our guy. No, I can't do that. So that's it. Well, thank you for my lunch and my 11-mile little jaunt. That was just so nice. And hope to come back here again, maybe in a couple of years.